Thanks for staying with us on The Full View. Former President Jacob Zuma takes the witness stand at the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture tomorrow. He's accused of having presided over the state capture project or having enabled it. No one has brought direct evidence of Zuma's involvement, but people he's associated with are being fingered as the masterminds, ostensibly with his approval or knowledge. Zuma supporters are expected to gather outside the venue tomorrow.
Dominating the headlines for months now, evidence before the State Capture Commission has numbed, surprised, reinforced theories and cast doubt and aspersions, and much more. The one person everyone wants to hear from is former President Jacob Zuma. His name has repeatedly come up during testimonies, with his well-documented friendship with the Guptas a common thread.
When the first meeting happened, I very distinctly remember Mr. Ajay Gupta telling the president that, look sir, we're calling it ANN 7 and this is just like you suggested. And we're putting a 7 because ANN was already taken, so we did the next best thing, which is put a numeric at the end of it, and we found that name was not taken, so we decided to take that. And President Zuma seemed to appreciate that a lot.
Former GCIS head Themba Maseko testified about being instructed by Zuma to help the Guptas. He said many others had similar experiences.
There are a number of senior public servants, middle managers, who have had experiences with a number of individuals, including the Gupta family. But it could also be pertaining to the conduct and behavior of their political bosses, ministers and MECs and premiers, who could be willing to, who have information, who may be willing to give that information to your commission.
The firing of Nhlanhla, allegedly influenced by the Guptas, and the subsequent backlash forced Zuma to reappoint Pravin Gordhan.
During that conversation, former President Zuma indicated that he was of the view that Mr. Van Rooyen was suitable for the finance minister position. I think he said he checked his CV with various people.
Law enforcement agencies like the NPA also featured prominently. Former boss Mxolisi Nxasana said he was forced out of his position.
Chair, at no stage did I make a request to vacate the office to the president, to the former president, Mr. Jacob Zuma. And that letter of the 10th that is referred to here, I was also involved in drafting that letter, confirming the discussions that we had with the president.
Zuma is also expected to be quizzed on the testimonies of former ministers like Nene and Barbara Hogan, as well as many others who implicated him. But it's the singing of former Bosasa COO Angelo Agrizzi which showed that the Guptas are not the only ones fingered in the state capture project.
Gavin was quite open. Gavin Watson would tell us that he's paying her 300,000 rand a month, and he always say he hopes that she's giving it to Zuma. And the payment was for the foundation, apparently.
Which foundation?
For the Jacob Zuma Foundation.
The ball is now in the former president's court. Over the next few days, Zuma will have an opportunity to set the record straight.
On Monday, it's another big day for you, headed to the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. Are you ready for that, to give your side of the story?
Eqinisweni ngicelwe iCommission ukuthi ke ngizobeka engase ngikubeke. So kuyozwakala khona ukuthi uhamba kanjani iyaya khona.
It's not clear what the format of his testimony will be and if he will respond directly to questions. He's expected to be represented by his legal team, led by Dan Mancha. Mzwandile Mbethe, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Let's get more on that Commission of Inquiry. I'm now joined in studio by spokesperson at the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, Reverend Mbuyiselo Stemela, and Peter Pedlar, who's the acting secretary at the Commission. Thanks both so much for your time on SABC News. Reverend, perhaps I can start with you. What arrangements are in place for former President Jacob Zuma's appearance tomorrow?
Thank you very much to Nzinga and to the viewers. We are ready for the hearing to resume tomorrow at 10 o'clock on 16 Empire Road in Parktown, Johannesburg. And we are going to be having a arrangement of public registering at 7:30 in the morning at Youth for Christ Camp in number 4 Empire Road, which is just across the BP garage. The entrance is on Joubert Street, and members of the public are requested to bring their driver's licenses, any positive ID for them to be able to register. And we want to make the public aware that the venue is only allowing 200 people to sit in. It is on a first come, first served basis, so people who come first will be registered first. There will be no preferential treatment in that regard. Therefore, people must make sure that they come so that when the venue is overflowing, then they can go to Peter Rose Park, where the other members of the public will be gathering.
Mm-hmm. Peter, there's been wide interest in the Commission of Inquiry from the beginning, but there's also 132 days in or so, growing calls and people saying that there's not enough arrests, and the fact that there's no widespread arrests of those implicated means that the work of the Commission is going to be essentially a lame duck. How would you respond to that, and what's the importance of commissions of inquiry like this?
Thanks, Zinga, for the opportunity. Essentially, it's important for commissions of inquiry in the country to answer the questions that have been raised by various reports, inquiries that have been done, such as the Public Protector's report, and as a result of that, the commission has been established. And as far as the arrests are concerned, these take time. One has to build a solid case, and the Deputy Chief Justice is a jurist who is very careful in making sure that he has all his ducks in a row before arrest can be made. But the Commission does not make arrests. We are simply gathering facts and establishing them. The prosecution agencies will have to take over where the work of the Commission ends.
We'll talk more about how you work together with the different agencies a little bit later on. If we can go back to that appearance of the former president, what kind of security measures are in place, because there is wide interest because of that witness who's appearing tomorrow?
The South African Police Services and the Johannesburg Metro Police Department are leading our security in ensuring that there is a good crowd control when people are coming out in their numbers, and the Commission is relying on them to ensure that the security of the people in the buildings is taken care of. That has been arranged with the South African Police Service. But we want to request all those people who are interested to come to the hearings to make sure that they come there unarmed, in ensuring that there is a safe space around the Commission precinct.
Mm-hmm. Peter, let's go back to the coordination, if any, or cooperation that you have with law enforcement agencies and how you work together with them as the Commission.
We have very good cooperation from them. Everybody has expressed their willingness to assist us. When we require information, we get the information. So the Commission really has no problem as far as the law enforcement agencies are concerned.
Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, we've heard that there are going to be many supporters of former President Jacob Zuma who are going to appear at the Commission. Have you had any contact with anyone who is perhaps representing any of the supporters, or do you have an idea of how many numbers of people may be expected tomorrow?
It has come to the attention of the Commission that there may be large crowds tomorrow moving forward. And as I've mentioned earlier, the South African Police Service is helping the Commission in that aspect of crowd control. They've been in conversation with the conveners of the marches will be coming for the hearings tomorrow. Therefore, the Commission is relying solely on the expertise of the South African Police Services for that crowd control.
Okay. There's a lot of information. I know we're focusing on one particular day tomorrow because that's a big story now, but there's a lot of information that's come out since the Commission began its work. How is that collated? How is that put together? And how is that disseminated to the law enforcement agencies that you've spoken about and to the public as well?
You are absolutely right. A lot of information has come out. We never envisaged this exponential increase in the work of the Commission. As a result of many appearances that a judge had on TV, many people have crawled out of the woodwork and offered us information. A number of whistleblowers shared information with us. And we are still busy following up on all of the information that came to our attention. Yes, in some cases it's very clear law enforcement agencies can start working on issues, but the terms of reference, if the information does not satisfy our terms of reference, we cannot follow up on any of the information that came through via all the channels that we have noticed so far.
Okay. Reverend, you did touch on a little bit of information about what people need to do when they go tomorrow to the commission. If someone is watching at home, they know they need to come early. What other information do they need to know that's going to make sure that they can get a seat inside there? Identification, safety, arms, anything?
Members of the public are requested to bring positive identification, for example, an ID, a passport or a driver's license. Without any of those documentation, it has to be original and authentic. They will not be allowed into the venue. And as we've mentioned, that is going to be on a first-come, first-served basis. And the registration starts at 7:30 at number 4 Empire Road, which is Impact for Christ camp. The entrance is at Jobert Street.
Okay. The issue of a commission of inquiry, there needs to be credibility in terms of who is chairing it and also the people who are going to be forming part of the legal team. Talk to us about the commission's legal team, how they were chosen and the importance of their work.
Yeah, the choice of the legal team, well, first of all, the appointment of the chair of the commission, that's done by the Chief Justice in conjunction with the President. But having done that, the judge then selects the legal team based on the experience, based on the qualifications, and the ability to carry out the work. It's a huge task. So the judge has gone through a rigorous process to select a very representative team.
Do we know how long still we're going to be watching this commission of inquiry? Do we know at what point it's going to wrap up and more work can be done?
At the moment, the timing for the completion of the work of the Commission is at the end of February next year. So that is when we expect the work to be finalized.
Thanks both so much for your time on SABC.